If building and renaming VMs in Hyper-V is eating your time, stick around, automation is about to fix that. Hello everyone, I'm Travis and welcome back to Seraltos. In the last video, we built a Windows 11 image that skips the whole out-of-box experience and goes straight to the login screen on the first boot. In this video, we're taking that image a step further and using PowerShell automation to create multiple Hyper-V virtual machines and rename them automatically. Before we jump in, please like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend or colleague who might find it useful. You can also check out my courses at udemy.com. The links are below. And a big thanks, as always, to my channel members. Your support really does make a difference. All right, back to it. My goal here is to build a Hyper-V lab with a bunch of Windows 11 VMs that boot straight to the login screen. We knocked out that part in the previous video with the unattend.xml file to bypass the out-of-box experience, but the image still isn't quite where it needs to be. One of the issues I ran into was computer naming. Windows gives each VM a random name during setup, and it doesn't match the VM name in Hyper-V. That becomes a problem if we want to manage these machines remotely because names don't line up. So we need a way to automatically rename the OS to match the Hyper-V VM name. And that's possible with a simple setup script. In a moment, we'll walk through a script I put together that runs after the out-of-box experience but before the login screen. It reads the VM's Hyper-V name straight from the registry and uses that to rename the computer so everything matches up. It actually ends up being two scripts working together. One is a batch file that lives in the C Windows Setup Scripts folder. Windows automatically looks in that directory during setup. That batch file then calls a PowerShell script that handles the renaming and triggers the reboot. After that, we mount the image template virtual disk and drop those scripts into it so every new VM gets updated right from the start. With the naming issue solved, the next step is automating the deployment of the VMs themselves, and that's where another PowerShell script comes in. This one builds a predefined number of virtual machines using a name prefix. I created and tested this script with Windows 11 VMs, and it lets you specify details like how many VMs to create, the amount of RAM, the number of CPU cores, and whether they should start automatically once they're created. We'll walk through that script in the demo in just a minute. There's a link to all the scripts in the description below if you want to try them out yourself. Let's hop over to VS Code and take a look. Here we are in VS Code. This is running on a Hyper-V server that I use for testing. All these scripts I'm working with have been tested on a standalone Hyper-V server. A link to these scripts is in the description below. The first step is to add a couple of scripts to the image to change the computer name on the OS to match the VM name in Hyper-V. And here's the script that does the update. I included some information and an example. After that is a section for logging. It will create a log file and write success or error messages to that file that can be used for troubleshooting. The log file location can be changed with the log_dir variable. Then there's the command to get the VM guest name in Hyper-V. That comes from a registry value. Then it tests to see if the VM guest name matches the OS name, and if not, it will rename it and then reboot the computer. All these commands are in a try-catch block for error handling. I may have overdone this script a little. The only code that's required is the line that gets the VM guest name and the one that renames the computer. But I like to add information and logging to my scripts. Okay, that's the name change script. How are we going to run it? I want it to run after the first boot. There are a few ways to do this. I went with adding a SetupComplete command file. This is a batch file. If it's placed in the Windows Setup Scripts directory, the script will run at the first boot, after the OOBE setup runs. In this image, that's automated with the unattend.xml file. The batch script calls the PowerShell script at the path specified. I selected this option because I can add additional configuration steps to the PowerShell script if needed. So the command file calls the PowerShell script to update the name. A lot of code for something that sounds so simple. Okay, next we'll mount the VHD and add the files to the image. This example is using the same image created in the last video. Locate that template image and we'll mount it. And again, I'm on the Hyper-V server, so that mount command is available in the right-click menu. It can also be mounted with PowerShell. Now that the image shows up in File Explorer, let's navigate to the drive it's mounted to, and then Windows Setup Scripts. You may need to create the scripts directory. Now we need to copy those two files we just looked at. In this example, it's the SetupComplete file and the update client file. Then we'll go back to the scripts directory on the image, and we can paste that in. Once we've copied those files into the script directory, we can eject the virtual drive. Now that the image is updated, we can use it with the script to build multiple VMs. And we'll use PowerShell to do that. Everything in the script is documented, but we will go over each section. Notice there are a couple examples at the end of the comment section. The parameter section has a few required parameters. It needs a name prefix. This will be the beginning of the OS name. So it's limited to Windows computer name requirements. The prefix can be up to 13 alphanumeric characters long. The script will append a 2-digit number at the end for a total of 15 characters. If you plan to deploy more than 99 VMs, the validate length option will need to be changed to 12. Next, we'll need to supply the number of VMs to create, the path to the image source, and the destination where the new VM is created. The VM files and the new virtual disk will be created at that destination location. After that, we can change the amount of RAM and number of processors. The VM will start by default, and we can change that behavior by setting start VM to false. Next, the source and destination paths are tested to make sure they're valid. Then it creates an array of new VM names. The first 9 VMs will have a 2-digit number with a leading 0. After that, it'll test the new VMs against the existing to make sure there's no duplications. And the last step loops through all of the VM names in the array and creates the new VMs. The VHDX extension is hard-coded. You'll need to change that to a VHD if that's the format of your source image. At the end, it will start the VM unless we specified otherwise. Let's run this script to create some VMs. For this example, we'll create 4 VMs. We've defined our source image path. That's the image we just updated, and the destination path for the new VMs. The rest of the values are left as default. We'll run that command. The video will pause here as it loops through creating these VMs. All right, that finished successfully. Let's go into File Explorer. Here's the location we specified as the destination. We can go in there to see the new virtual disks. Let's go over to Hyper-V. And there are the 4 new VMs running. If we look at one that was just created, that's still going through the initial startup configuration. And there will be an extra reboot as the name's changed, and that script forces a reboot. We can go to one that's finished. It takes us straight to the login page. And it does take a minute the first time you log in to set up the profile. Okay, that takes us to the desktop. Let's open the command prompt. And we'll check the computer's host name. That's great, that matches the Hyper-V host name. That is how to script creating multiple virtual machines and updating VM names with Hyper-V. That's the process for automating name changes on a Windows 11 image and deploying multiple Hyper-V VMs with PowerShell. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.